Perfect. Hello, everyone. This is Matthias Maresbacher from the Global Alliance, and I'm doing the faculty spotlight today with Dr. Joshua Burns today. Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is about like asking faculty staff about their experiences abroad, and I'm gonna start with the first question for you, Dr. Burns. Where did you teach, study, or research, or live abroad?
All right. So yeah, I lived abroad for quite a period of time. So a little bit of background on me. When I was 18, I was in the U.S. military, and so I had a chance to kind of travel quite a bit in that capacity. So I lived in Japan for about 3 years when I was in the military. And then when I got out of the military, I moved back to Japan as a civilian. So for another 3 years. So I lived over a period of time for 6 years in the uh, Japanese society, and so I got to quite experience quite a bit for that. So.
Oh, that's impressive. So I didn't understand what you were saying. Like after, like when you were done with the army, you came back for, like back to Japan for.
Yeah, just what I said was as a civilian, which just means as a regular
Ah,
citizen,
okay, just
etc. So
okay.
yeah,
That's impressive. So you said you were like a total of 6 years, right?
yes.
Okay, so what was maybe like the most impressive thing about Japan that was like that fascinated you the most about the country?
The people of Japan are just phenomenal. So I don't really know if I can say and do justice to how really open and caring the people are in Japan, and that to me is the essence of the country. What really makes it impressive is the kind of the caring from the Japanese society. I mean, I can give you kind of an example of that. So when I was there within my last couple of years, I was having a little bit of difficulty finding the embassy for the U.S. Embassy. I needed to do some paperwork there, and it's in an area of town that's not near the train station at all. It's about 20 minutes walking from there, and so I'm kind of standing around looking at the street corners and trying to figure out where I'm at. And this gentleman, elderly gentleman, noticed that I'm having difficulty, and he comes up and asks me what it is that I'm looking for. And I got across to him that I was looking for the American Embassy, but his English wasn't going to be able to give me the directions, and my Japanese wasn't good enough for me to understand the directions. And so he just walked me there. 20 minutes he walked out of his way to make sure that I got where I was supposed to go. And that's just kind of an example about how open and caring the Japanese society is. And that's unique. I don't think I've experienced that anywhere else.
No, that's definitely cool. Like that's a good example. Did you get to experience like how the educational system is in Japan compared to United
I
States?
have, but it's been since I actually have come back to the U.S. that I've experienced that, and that's mainly because my daughter is both American and Japanese citizen. My wife is Japanese, and so we send her every summer to the public education system in Japan, and she goes and spends the summer there learning the language and being able to communicate with the kids within her age group. And I mean, education wise, they're very advanced. I mean, mathematics education, even at elementary school level, is probably equal to what she's doing now in middle school here in the United States. And so they are very, very advanced in the education system. And so that was part of that, at least from a public school standpoint. As a college student myself, I did my education in Japan at the time, but it was with an American institution. So with the University of Maryland, they had a branch in the base there, and I was able to do my education while I was in Japan there. There's a little bit of crossover there with Japanese population, especially when I took the Japanese language courses in Japan. And it was an interesting experience. I mean, to be able to take language and culture courses in the country that you're trying to learn the language and culture about is a fascinating experience. And the immersion opportunities were great for that. So some experience in that, but not necessarily like as a college student at a Japanese university or anything like that.
Yeah. So how was that experience of like learning that new language? I mean, it especially I think it helped when you're like in the country itself because you basically confronted with the language. But how was it at first? Was it like very
Yeah,
overwhelming?
I
Like,
mean, it's difficult at first because Japanese is so different from our writing system, and being able to read and write is really the hardest part of it. I mean, I still wouldn't say I'm perfect at that. I can read hiragana, I can read katakana, which are two of the languages that they use for writing, but they also have a third written language, which is kanji, that I'm not as good at.
yeah,
But I mean, I can get around. The great thing about the Tokyo area as a foreigner is that a lot of things are still written in English, or they use what they call Romaji, which is a language built around Roman characters so that we can read that a little bit easier. And so a lot of the signs will be in both to account for foreigners to be able to see that. Or if you take the train system in Japan, it goes across in Japanese first, and then it scrolls English afterwards so that you can see what the upcoming stops are or something like that.
okay.
That's kind of unique to Tokyo. It's not that way if you go out to the country areas,
Yeah, I
but
can
it
imagine.
is kind of an advantage living in the big city like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, is there like, if you would have to think back about those 6 years you spent in Japan, was there like one particular experience that you would say was like the best experience you've had there?
I love the last 3 years I was there without being in the military because it's a different cultural experience. Being in the military, it can kind of be like living on in an American area because you're living with Americans on a
Yeah.
base. But when I was there on my own and I got to really live with Japanese culture and to be around Japanese people all the time, it was a complete different experience and one that I really cherished a lot more. I just the everyday experience of living in my apartment building and interacting with my neighbors and being able to talk to them and to I mean discuss the topics of the area, to watch the growth of the city that we lived in, to grow from a really small kind of country or mountain part of the external part of the Tokyo prefecture to becoming a bigger and booming kind of city was really interesting to see. And that happened within that 3 years that I lived there. So that was a much better experience for me overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So, could you in general like recommend students to make the experience abroad to like
Oh,
to another country?
absolutely. And not just going to Japan, but anywhere that you get a chance to go. When you live abroad or when you just even travel abroad for a couple of weeks, it's really going to change your perspective on life. You're going to start to view your place in the world differently. You're going to start to view your country differently and other countries differently. And I think that experience is extremely rewarding and one that I wouldn't want to pass up. I think that's something that you can get that's unique to travel that you will never get in your own country, kind of living in just the general normal population. And I mean, we've spoken a lot of Japan as well, but I did get a chance to travel to other places also. And there's a very similar experience where you just change your perspective on things. So going and traveling to Ireland gave me a different perspective on European culture. The same with Germany. And being able to experience kind of the wine country within Germany, which was a fascinating thing. I spent about 4 months living in Egypt, which was an amazing experience with a different culture that I wasn't as familiar with, but was so rewarding in my experience of being able to kind of daily, again, interact daily with Egyptian people and with Egyptian customs and courtesies, and really kind of experiencing that culture was amazing. So those are experiences that I would recommend for anybody, even if it's a short-term travel option. Just spending a week in a different culture or different experience is going to be very rewarding for you individually.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely you know verify that because I'm from Austria, and
Mhm.
basically this year is my like experience abroad, and I feel like every time I go back home, it's like you've made different experiences, and like every time you go back home, you see everything differently, and especially what
Yeah.
happened to me, you like treasure everything more that you have back home. Like that was just like for me, I'm very like I feel like I'm very connected to the environment, to like the nature back home, like the
Mhm.
mountains and everything you have. And when I'm here for the semester and I go back home, it's just like it overwhelms me every time again. It's like as if something has been missing. Now
Yeah.
that's what I like value a lot from that.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, been similar experience, just being able to travel and going to see things that I wouldn't experience here in the United States. In Japan, being able to climb Mount Fuji to the top of the mountain and kind of look out
Yeah,
and amongst the clouds and see that. And then also doing that with people who climb it regularly and who are in so much better shape despite age differences or anything else like that was pretty amazing to see. I can remember an elderly lady moving faster than us by the time we got to the top of the mountain because she just had done it so many times and it was just normal for
yeah,
her to move in that kind of low air environment. But being in touch with nature, those are things that I definitely miss about travel as well. So
yeah. So when you came back from Japan, did you like experience something like a culture shock when you came back to the United States?
oh yeah, I would definitely say that everything is different. And so one of the things that, I mean, for example, just going to a restaurant and the way that the staff is going to respond to you is so different between Japan and the United States. In Japan, everything is so friendly, and the staff that you're going to experience in the restaurant is there to make sure that your experience is the best experience it can be at that restaurant. Everything is attended to, everything is fresh, everything is done right then. And kind of the Japan is a very polite society, and there's a lot of hierarchy in the language. And so the politeness of the way that you would speak to somebody and the respect that you would give to that is apparent in the language itself. And that's non-existent in English culture and in American culture for the most part. That was something that was kind of a culture shock coming back after living 6 years in a society where there's an importance to the way that you talk to strangers and the way that you treat strangers compared to somebody who's familiar to you and your family, and then coming back to a society where that doesn't exist was a
Yeah,
bit shocking for me.
that's that makes sense. Um, what else? When you were abroad or like when you were in Japan, did you like work somewhere that was like you weren't were you teaching in Japan or
I wasn't at the time because I was still an undergraduate student when I lived in
oh
Japan.
okay
And
okay
so yeah, so I didn't after I come back to Japan out of the military, I was an undergraduate student. So I didn't get a chance to do any teaching there. And since I've been back in the United States and gotten my doctorate degrees and stuff, then I haven't been to teach back in there in Japan. So
okay, but did you work something else in Japan or
when I was civilian, no, I was a student full time. In the military, yes. And so quite a bit of travel between bases and working kind of full time. I worked as a radio maintenance personnel in there, and so we had a lot of remote sites that you go to maintain radio communications. And so I would be traveling to an hour here or there to a different site and making sure the transmitter or receiver sites were up. But that was the main working experience, and that is done in the military. We work with local population quite a bit, and so we have Japanese workers that are working with us in those radio sites, and that's a good kind of experience to have also. So
okay, so could you like tell differences between how like professions are in Japan compared to United States or like how like workers, I mean, it's kind of strange, but do you
yeah,
did you get to experience how it work life is for them compared to work life here?
yeah, I think you can make some kind of inference to the general population and some of that. I would say that in general, workers, especially younger workers, are going to have a much longer work day, as they try to build up their place within a company or within a organizational structure. So
Yeah.
for younger 20-something-year-old people working within the business area in Japan, they may work somewhere around 12, 18 hours a day trying to build up their kind of employment status. And that might happen all the way until the mid 30s. And that's pretty common to see in Japan. So a lot of young workers will rent out small hotel areas where they can sleep near their work and then go back to work the next day really quickly so that they can continue to build their way up through the business structure. And that's a lot different than what you would see in the United States, where there tends to be set, 8-hour work days or yeah.
Now, what we would say back home, for example, in Europe, we would say that we work to live. And in the United States, for example, the people there, they live to work. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. And days off are very kind of different between various cultures, like you mentioned. In Europe, it's more kind of built into that work schedule, that work rest schedule, where you have multiple days off or more days off. And Americans don't really do that as much. We have a limited amount of days off of work. Japan's even kind of worse than that, where the work culture is such where you don't get to take a lot of days off. And so the government has kind of made like mandatory off times or more holidays for people to be able to take more days off. And so that's a little bit different than what we would see here also.
Okay. Now, I mean, it's different all over the globe. So, but it's nice that that you could give me like some sort of impression, and I'm pretty sure that all that we talked about can be very helpful for all the students that are gonna listen to this. At this point, I don't have any questions left, and I want to say thank you very much
for thank you so
this
much.
interview. I think it's great for everyone who sees this to get like some sort of experience of how life can be in Japan. I mean, thank you very much again, and I hope to see you anytime soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.